Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the segment of Coach Gurvani's a-sabad-a-day. Our recitation is the seventh pauri or step or stanza of Rag Maj Var Mahalla Pehla. Slook Mahalla Pehla Mehar Masit Sidak Musala Haq Halal Quran Saram Sunnat Seal Roja Ho Musliman Karni Kaaba Sach Peer Kalma Karam Nivaj Tasbih Sat Is Bhavasi Nanak Rakhe Laaj Mahalla Pehla Haq Paraya Nanaka Us Suar Us Gaye Gur Pir Hama Ta Pare ਜਾ ਮੁਰਦਾਰ ਨ ਖਾਏ ਗਲੀ ਬਹਿਸ਼ਤ ਨ ਜਾਈਐ ਛੁੱਟੇ ਸੱਚ ਕਮਾਏ ਮਾਰਨ ਪਾਏ ਹਰਾਮ ਮਹਿ ਹੋਏ ਹਲਾਲ ਨ ਜਾਏ ਨਾਨਕ ਗੱਲੀ ਕੂੜੀਆਂ ਕੂੜੋ ਪੱਲੇ ਪਾਏ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਪੰਜ ਨਿਵਾਜਾ ਵਕਤ ਪੰਜ ਪੰਜਾਂ ਪੰਜੇ ਨਾਉ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਸੱਚ ਹਲਾਲ ਦੋਏ ਤੀਜਾ ਖੈਰ ਖੁਦਾਏ ਚੌਥੀ ਨੀਅਤ ਰਾਸਮਨ ਪੰਜਵੀਂ ਸਿਫਤ ਸਨਾਏ ਕਰਨੀ ਕਲਮਾ ਆਖ ਕੈ ਤਾਂ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨ ਸਦਾਏ ਨਾਨਕ ਜੇਤੇ ਕੁੜਿਆਰ ਕੂੜੈ ਕੂੜੀ ਪਾਏ ਪੌੜੀ ਇੱਕ ਰਤਨ ਪਦਾਰਥ ਵਣਜ ਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਕੱਚੈ ਦੇ ਵਾਪਾਰਾ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਤੁਠੇ ਪਾਇਨ ਅੰਦਰ ਰਤਨ ਭੰਡਾਰਾ ਵਿਣ ਗੁਰ ਕਿਨੇ ਨ ਲੱਦਿਆ ਅੰਧੇ ਭੌਕੇ ਮੂਹੇ ਕੁੜਿਆਰਾ ਮਨ ਮੁਖ ਦੂਜੇ ਪਚ ਮੂਹੇ ਨਾ ਬੁੱਝੈ ਵਿਚਾਰਾ ਇੱਕ ਸਬਾਜੋਂ ਦੂਜਾ ਕੋ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਸ ਅੱਗੇ ਕਰਹਿ ਪੁਕਾਰਾ ਇੱਕ ਨਿਰਧਨ ਸਦਾ ਭੌਂਕਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਨਾ ਭਰੇ ਤੁਜਾਰਾ ਵਿਣ ਨਾਵੇਂ ਹੋਰ ਧਨ ਨਾਹੀ ਹੋਰ ਵਿਖਿਆ ਸਭ ਛਾਰਾ ਨਾਨਕ ਆਪ ਕਰਾਏ ਕਰੇ ਆਪ ਹੁਕਮ ਸਵਾਰਨ ਹਾਰਾ This pauri is obviously addressed to a Muslim audience, or at least Guru Nanak is addressing the Muslim practices and giving us instruction on what it takes or what it means to be an authentic Muslim. So he begins by saying, Mehar Masit Sidak Musala Haq Halal Quran. Let compassion be the mosque, Mehar Masit. Faith be your prayer mat, Sidak Musalla. Honest earning should become your Quran, Haq Halal Quran. And then make modesty your circumcision, Saram Sunnat, and good conduct your fasting, seal roja, and in such a way be a Muslim, ho Musliman. And then he goes on to say, let good deeds be the pilgrimage to Kaaba, let truth be the guide, such peer, let grace be the creedal statement and prayer, kalma Karam Nivaj, Karam, grace. And then ultimately, if submission to the will, to divine will, becomes your rosary, tasbih, the rosary, sa, your, tisabhavasi, is in harmony with the self, then, says Nanak, your honor will be protected. Nanak Rakhe Laaj. And here he switches to human rights, where he says, Hak paraya Nanaka, us suar, us gai. The rights of others, Hak paraya. O Nanak, Hak paraya, the right of others is forbidden to you. Just like swine is forbidden to the Muslim and beef is forbidden for the Hindu. Us suar, us gai. It's a very powerful statement that he's making about human rights, addressing both communities now, Hindus and Muslims, and making a general statement that usurping the rights of others is just as forbidden as swine is to the Muslim and beef is to the Hindu. And he goes on to emphasize that Gur Pir Hama Ta Pare, your guide will bear witness for you only jab murdar na khaye, if you don't eat the carcass of a dead animal, which is a metaphor for saying that if you have not usurped the rights of others. So we see that the notion of justice is elemental in Guru Nanak's teachings. And this verse reflects his strong reaction to the society he lived in, where political corruption and naked exploitation and usurpation of rights of the marginalized especially was a common practice. It still is. But that's why we see justice as the central plank of Guru Nanak's teachings. And now he comes to people who simply talk or pretend. Galni pe histana jaiye. Mere words, he says, will not take you to paradise. Chutta, release, freedom from bondage. How does that come about? Chutta sach kamai. It comes from living and earning truthfully. Sach kamai. So your livelihood, you have to pay attention to your livelihood and how you make your livelihood. And then he warns you that maran paye haram mein hai. Maran pahe, to put. Maran. Maran actually is a term used for mercury. And mercury was used to make medicines of various kinds. The idea here is, what he is saying is, maran pahe haram mein hai, that by embellishing or softening, because it's also a food softener, or spicing up things, or covering what is ill-gotten, haram, does not justify it. Hoye halal na jaye, it does not become legitimate. So in other words, don't cover up what is not legitimate, because if you do, it doesn't really work. And then here, very beautifully, he points to what the 5 prayers of the Muslims should really signify. And he says, the Muslims recite 5 prayers at the appointed times, Waqt Panj, and each has a name. Panja Panje Now. The Guru suggests that another way to look at these 5 is to make the first namaz, which is early in the morning, make that truthfulness. Honest earning, the second one. The third one should be charity in the name of Khuda, Tija Khair Khudai, and let good intention be the 4th prayer. Chauthe, Niyat Arasaman, and the 5th, glorification of the Almighty. Panjmi, Sift Sana. And then he goes on, make good deeds your creedal recitation, because that is the central recitation, the kalma. Karani kalma aakake. Only then call yourself a Muslim. Ta Musalman sadai. And those who are pretenders or pretend to do this, Nanak Jete Kudiyar, they are really phony Muslims and they live a falsehood. And in the Pauri, he sums up the essence of what we are really after. Some, he says, seek Vanajde, the real gem of self-knowledge. That is what we are all after, Ratan Padarth. Ik Ratan Padarth Vanajde, while others are engaged in mere imitation or pretensions. Ik Kache Devapara, imitation. Satguru Tuthe Payan Andar Ratan Pandara. If the Satguru, the enlightener, is favorably disposed, Tutha means to be looked at with a kind or favorable eye. If that happens, then the jewel of self-knowledge is found within the storehouse of the mind. Payan Andar Ratan Pandara. Pandara is a storehouse, and here it signifies the mind. And so without Gur wisdom, he says, no one has found this treasure. When Gur kinina ladya. Ladya is to load. So you really cannot find this wisdom, this treasure house within the mind without the guidance of Gur wisdom. And he goes on to say, the ignorant perish, having uttered falsehood. Ande pauk moe kodiyar. Pauk is an outcry or an angry expression, although it literally means to bark like a dog. And so he's referring to these people as manmukhs, self-conceited. He says they do not grasp the essence, na bujje vichara, and that's why they languish, pachamue, in the pursuit of other false ideas, dujje, manmukh dujje pachamue, na bujje vichara. And then he says, those lacking in awareness, ik nirdhan. Nirdhan means poor in common usage, without wealth. But here he's talking about the wealth of awareness. Those lacking in awareness are always barking up the wrong tree. Sada ponkade. In other words, they're always chasing other ideas, whereas others have filled the treasury of their mind with self-knowledge. But for self-knowledge, he says, Vin name hor tan nahi. There is no other wealth. Everything else apart from self-knowledge is nothing more than a poisoning of the mind. Hor bhikhya. And what does it do? It yields the ash of repentance and regret. Bhikhya sab char, which is ash. That is really the outcome, and ash here represents regret, repentance. That's what comes out of poisoning the mind, bhikhya, with other false ideas. And in conclusion, Nanak aap karaye kare, aape hukam savaran hara, declares Nanak, aap, that, it, the self, the supreme being, it itself is the cause, it's the ultimate cause and the effect of the universe. So what you see as the universe is caused by the supreme Aap. What you perceive happening is also the effect of that cause. And it itself, through its command, Aape Hukam Savaran Hara, it is the embellisher. It also sustains, decorates its own creation. So this really is a lesson on what it means to be an authentic Muslim. Note that Guru Nanak has listed qualities and attributes that all require internal development. He mentions compassion, modesty, But ultimately, he talks about submission because that is central to his message. And that is also the real meaning of the word Islam. So this is the clue for us that having submitted to the external discipline, for example, mosque going, 5 prayers, the prayer mat, the telling of the rosary beads, all of these are external disciplines that people impose on themselves, especially in the Muslim world. What Guruji is saying is that must be extended to the discipline of the mind as well. From recognizing and submitting to external authority, the individual must move to a rational and ultimately psychological and intuitive understanding of that discipline. External submission must lead to internal submission. The outer life must be woven around an inner experience. That is what constitutes the making of a Muslim. On that thought, until the next time, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.